Good morning. Wow, how are you guys today? Hope you had a great weekend. We're back at the farm this week. Got a few different things going on. We've got some spraying to do again. We're done spraying fungicide on beans, but we've got a little bit of Roundup to spray on our double crop beans, and somebody had asked about showing an update on those. So we'll take a look at our double crops today and get some spraying done to kill the volunteer wheat off there. And we've got some giant ragweeds that need to be sprayed, so we'll get to that as well. Wednesday and Thursday this week, I've got a seed kickoff meeting in Columbus, so I don't know how the video stuff's going to go those couple of days. I might not make one. I might try and make one for both days. I don't know. We'll see. But check this out. Ohio State has posted their wheat yield trial results. Look at this, AgriPro SY100, first place overall state of Ohio for 2021 at 108.8 average. That is fantastic. So, if you're in Northwest Ohio or Southeast Michigan or even Northeast Indiana and you would like to plant the #1 wheat variety in the state of Ohio, let me know. I can hook you up with some of that. Michigan State has not yet released their 21 wheat trial results, so we'll see about that once they finally do. But I can tell you that the SY100 in the 3-year trials as of 2020 last year was definitely in the top 3. I'd have to go back and look at it to see exactly. So AgriPro wheat is very good stuff. All right, I'm getting the sprayer loaded up. We're spraying glyphosate. It's a generic Roundup is what we've got. I think this is Buccaneer. Oh, I probably don't have enough in here. Anyway, yeah, I'm getting loaded up, then I'll tell you a little bit more. Okay, so I got everything loaded up. Sorry, I had to rinse out this shuttle, and then I had to get the rest of the Roundup that I needed. We had some in jugs here, so I put that in. So we've got the right amount of chemical and stuff that we need. Before we get into the spraying Roundup side of stuff, I just want to talk about what we're putting in the tank. So we are spraying 1 quart to the acre of this 41% glyphosate product, Buccaneer Plus. It is not the the more concentrated 22 ounce rate. It's the quart rate. Dad likes that because it's easy figuring. We're also putting in a water conditioning agent, which is this Combust. That helps to tie up the minerals and the hardness of our water, because those things neutralize the glyphosate and basically make it ineffective. And so we have to condition the water before we put the Roundup in so that it doesn't tie up the chemical and it makes it still work. We also are putting in an adjuvant here, this R11. That is just to break the surface tension of the water so that the droplets will spread out on the leaves when we contact them, and it will help it get into the plant better, so that it's not just beating up and bouncing off of the plants. So, we can talk about the effectiveness of Roundup and debate that all you want. We do have Roundup resistant weeds here. Not as bad as some other areas of the country, but primarily the Roundup resistant weed that we fight is mare's tail. I've talked about it, I think, before. I'll show you some of it in some fields somewhere. But what we are spraying now is double crop beans, and our mare's tail pressure is relatively low in most of the places except for where it's sort of sandy, and we may put something else in the tank when we go to those places. But what we're fighting right now primarily is volunteer wheat. All them little kernels of wheat that we blew right out through the back of the combine that's growing up in the windrows, or where the windrows were, it's going to be a problem. So Roundup is a very good grass killer, and it will kill this wheat no problem whatsoever. So that's all we're putting in today, and it should be perfectly effective for what we're trying to do. And it's relatively cheap, which keeps our costs low, which is very important on double crop beans, where you don't even know if you're going to get a crop or not. Now, the other side of that is we're going to spray this wheat stubble with Roundup regardless of whether there were double crop beans in it or not. It's just the fields that don't have double crop beans, it's going to be a while before we spray them. All right, we made it to the field here. Before we get started, I just wanted to walk out. We'll show you the beans and what we're dealing with. See, this is that volunteer wheat. It's hard to see out here because it's growing underneath the taller weed stubble. but this is where windrow was, and it's pretty thick right here. You go off of that and it's not so bad. There is a little bit out here, but here's our beans, the double crops. They look decent. We've got trifoliates coming out, a little bit of insect feeding, nothing I'm concerned about yet. The biggest thing I've noticed is I planted these at 200,000 plus, and it does not look that thick. We didn't get a perfect stand out here like I was kind of hoping for. So it is what it is. I think they'll be okay. They definitely will keep growing and look better once they get up above the wheat stubble and fill stuff in a little bit. But I don't know. It's still too early to tell what to expect from our double crop beans. But the other thing you can tell out here is there's just not a lot of other weeds. Like I said, it's all this volunteer stuff that was laying right behind the combine pass underneath the windrows. There's just not much out here. So the Roundup should be extremely effective. Yeah, look at it all on the ends here where we cut lower because the wheat was down. You can see it pretty clear as day. Spraying Roundup is different than the fungicides that we had been spraying, because if you miss a spot here, you're gonna know it. So it's important that we back into all the corners. It's important that we cover all of the acres on the field and not just go and do it and hope we get it. So trying to do a little bit better job, or a more thorough job, I guess you could say. The other thing is we're running lower gallons. We're only putting 13 gallons of carrier to the acre on, and that results in lower pressures. And we're running single jet nozzles. I'll show you in a minute. Well, I'm not sure how well you guys can see it, but definitely a different pattern of our nozzles there. On the fungicides, we're using the same size nozzles, but they had two jets, one that sprayed forward and one that sprayed backwards. With the glyphosate, we're just spraying one spraying backwards, so that's essentially twice as big a droplet size, plus we're running lower pressure because we're less gallons, and so we get much larger droplets, which is fine. All we have to do is get one to touch the weed that we're trying to die. Glyphosate, or Roundup, is a systemic herbicide, which means that if you get a drop of it on the leaf, it will move throughout that plant and go down into the roots and kill the plant. That's a good thing. I know there is some debate as to the safety of using glyphosate, Roundup, and the whole Roundup litigation and all of this stuff. Guys, Roundup is one of the safest chemicals that we use. It's one of the mildest, and it's neutralized when it hits the soil. It really is. Like, if you want to ban Roundup, we're going to have to replace it with stuff that's much more potent and dangerous. And expensive. Let's not forget that. So, I like to joke with people that Roundup's only dangerous when it's used in small quantities, because all these lawsuits are landscapers and groundskeepers and people that use a small, tiny amount of Roundup compared to what we're doing, even in just the sprayer load. And I don't know. You can argue with me all you want. You're not going to change my mind. I feel that Roundup is an essential tool to the American farms and to all farmers around the world, and it's cheap and effective and safe. So that's my opinion. I did see that last week Bayer announced they'll be pulling all Roundup from the consumer and retail market to protect themselves from future litigation. And while that may be true, that that's why they're doing it, there's another big factor there. It is a saturated market with generics. The branded Roundup doesn't have that kind of market pull anymore, and so let the generics have that market. It's not like glyphosate's not going to be available to buy. You're just not going to buy it in a Roundup label. Like, that does nothing. Now, moving on. This field is that one where we had that fertilizer mishap, or where they didn't apply the fertilizer to part of the field. This corner right back here. And you can tell how much thinner the stubble is, and the fact that there's some other weeds out here, because we didn't have the cover from the wheat shading them out. I wanted to follow up on that. I did talk to our supplier, and I told them what I saw in the maps. It was 3 acres that did not get spread in this field. It was off by about 30 bushel to the acre, I believe it was. So significant, yes. End of the world, no. Ended up costing us about $600 total It's not that big of a deal. I did not ask them to write me a check for $600. I asked them to make sure that it doesn't happen again and to provide me with the maps and the documentation to prove that it does not happen again. So they were sorry about it. They were very willing to make things right, and I just told them, I said, oh, it happens, but let's do a better job in the future and everybody will be happy. Except for maybe their competitor who was about to get the business. What do you do? All right, next field. There's actually like 110 acres in this field, but they still have windrows on most of it over there, and I am not going to spray Roundup on top of their windrows because while I do think Roundup is a relatively safe chemical, you don't spray it directly in stuff that's going to be used for anything other than, you know, growing crops. So where that straw may get used as bedding, I'm not going to spray glyphosate right on top of it. I'm going to wait until they get the straw baled and then we'll worry about it. Plus, there's no beans planted where the volunteer wheat is in the middle of the windrows, so it doesn't really affect it that much. But anyway, we're going to spray out what we've got. We've only got 350 gallons on here, and we'll see how far we make it. I think there was like 40 acres, but we won't get all that done, so that's fine. We'll wait till they get the straw baled. They did start raking it. I'll show you that when we get over there. Hopefully this week they'll get it baled and we can come finish this up the end of the week. Well, there's where their windrows start over there. They got them all raked. The straw was much brighter underneath the windrow. Yeah. Our double crop beans, it's hard to tell right here from the sprayer, but they look good up here. These were planted before the last field that we looked at. That last field was the last beans that we planted, so I think those were on like the 8th or 9th of July. These were planted the 5th of July, maybe. Okay, I ran out of solution. I'm not sure when I'm going to use this sprayer again. It might be a few days, and since we have a herbicide in there, I'm going to rinse everything out. So this sprayer has a rinse tank that just holds fresh, clean water with no chemical ever in it. And it will use that water to rinse all of the systems on the sprayer, the solution systems, the adductor, agitation, the bypass line, and now it's doing the solution tank. When it's done, we'll then spray that out. We'll just overlap over what we've already sprayed, and then it kind of cleans it out so you don't get stuff settling in the booms. All right, well, I'm almost caught up on spraying. I've got some giant ragweeds that I need to spray in some of that muck ground, but I'm not going to use the big sprayer. I'm going to use that little Century sprayer behind the 7520. We might do that this afternoon. But I feel like I filmed a lot this morning, and we've got a pretty decent video going here. So I'm going to run down to Berkey and see how Dad's coming with that wall. I've got a couple of seed customers I wouldn't mind paying a visit to, and we'll just go do that and come back this afternoon. And if we got time, we might do some mowing, we might do some spraying, we might do nothing. Heck, I don't know. We'll see. Made it down to Berkey here. Show you what Dad's doing. We're gonna put steel on the front of this barn, dress it up a little bit, make it look nice. He's gonna replace the windows, and there was a couple of old doors here and on the end, and there's one up on for the old mow. But we're just gonna close them in. So he laid some block through the wall here, and he's working on framing this stuff in down there so that we can put siding over it. So he's got some of his boards that he's cut on the sawmill here. Dad putting down some studs. There used to be a mow in this barn, but we took it out several years ago, 20 years ago. When we had our straw, we were using that bale stacker we had. And we could flip the straw stacks right up in here and get a bunch more in there than when we were just stacking in the mow, and we didn't have to handle them. So put this big door on there, and it's nice now because we can get a combine or the sprayer or different stuff in here that you couldn't when there was a mow at like that level. So it works good. We'll fix up the old barn a little bit. You can see we need some steel on that side too. All right, well, Dad and I went and got lunch. I thought we should do a little crop scouting while I'm down here. Check out this sweet ear of corn that I found. That's a good one. 18 by 45. And it's filling out. This 110-day corn that's filling out nicely. Anyway, I'm over in one of our bean fields now. Curious to see if we have any white mold here. We don't usually get white mold here at Berkey, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. We need to talk about white mold a little bit too. Well, so far, at least right here, it's good news. I don't see any. What I see are some dang good looking beans. Look at these flowers way up on the top of the plant. We've got pods forming. That is awesome. These beans look incredible. Let me pull one. Oh, broke it off. I mean, that's not the best plant, but they look good. Branches, pods, awesome. We've got good beans down here so far. Hopefully the disease stays out of them. I did spray these a couple weeks ago. You can see here we've got a sprayer track. There's plenty of soil moisture. It's not dry. It's not dry, so off to the races. So I got a lot of questions in the last video about that white mold that I was showing you guys, and I didn't do a very good job explaining it. So white mold is a fungus, I think, that is kind of occurs in the soil. Sclerotinia, something like that. I don't know, you can Google it, white mold in soybeans. It'll tell you all about it. But basically, it's coming from the soil. They'll form these little, we call them volcanoes, but I don't know if they're like a mushroom or what exactly, but they form on the soil surface, and then they kind of explode spores up into the air that then infects the soybean plants, and they infect the soybean plants through the flowers mostly. So it's kind of like how when you get a cut, you're more likely to get an infection there because it has a wound or somewhere for it to enter the body. Well, the flowers are basically the open wound on a soybean plant, and it allows that spores from that white mold to have a place to enter the plant and get started. So what that means is that it's really hard to spray for and control because we have such a long window when the soybean plants are flowering that you have to protect them that entire time, and you have to get good coverage down on the flowers, which can be difficult when the canopy is so dense. You're just not going to be able to coat the plants well enough to protect them. So it seems to be worse this year because of all the rain, the wet weather that we've had, especially here in July. You get those little volcanoes that shoot the spores up, splashes dirt on the plants. They can get all kinds of different stuff into them to create diseases and problems. And yeah, so that's the reason why it's more severe this year, is because we've been wet, lack of air movement, and wet, dense canopy conditions is going to cause disease, and white mold is the one this year. So anyway, I got a seed customer too I'm going to stop and see on my way back to Waldron, and we're going to head back there and get the 7520 and the mower out and go do a little mowing. All right, I made it back to Waldron. We're going to go do some mowing with the 7520 here. That wheat field where we have double crop beans that we sprayed this morning, there's that low ground in the one spot that I just want to go at least a pass along the edge, or maybe two passes along the edge, knock the weeds back a little bit. And we've got more mowing that is going to need to be done soon, because remember I told you we are allowed to mow certain times on our filter strips that are in some of the conservation programs. Well, the Ohio window has expired. The Michigan window just opened August 1st to August 15th. So the Ohio stuff is done, but we need to mow the Michigan side over the next few days or week here. I'm probably going to have Brock do a lot of that, maybe tomorrow. Uh-oh. Are we dead? Tractor's dead. Always something, isn't there? Okay. Well, we're gonna, if we get it started. Anyway, I need to do some spraying. We need this tractor to do it. So I'm going to mow a little bit today, and then tomorrow morning we're going to hook the sprayer back up and go do the spraying, and then we'll hook the mower back up. Well, let's see if this thing works. It says it's fully charged. I highly doubt it. I give it about a 10% chance that it starts that tractor. Oh, it beeped. What do you think? Any chance? None. We got nothing. Sorry, fingers in the display. Negative. I'll set in the seat just to make sure, but my display's not even powering on. That thing is did. Nothing. Crap. Garbage. There's a 24-month warranty on it. Maybe they'll send me a new one. I don't know. I've tried this thing on something else one time that it didn't work, and I don't know. It's charged. The light works, but no juice. So we'll take our big battery charger out there, and it'll take a minute, but at least it'll start. Well, we're gonna let that charge for a little bit, although we do have some juice. When I turn the key, it's not enough to turn it over, but so the problem here is this little switch right here. Warning lights. Somebody left them on when they got done driving it, and they were dead. That switch is really hard to see when the steering wheel is tilted down, so it's pretty easy to forget, but yep. We'll give that a few minutes. While I'm waiting for that, remember that shuttle that we emptied this morning? Yeah, we're gonna move that, get it out of the way, and get our other full shuttle, or somewhat full shuttle, of glyphosate out, which is the one clear in the back over there. Oh, we're getting it. There we go. Okay, got everything else put back. The chemical pile is shrinking. We don't have a ton of stuff left. These are carryover corn herbicide that they're basically empty, but they're not quite. That one is just a tiny little bit of bean chemicals left. We might actually use that up on our double crops. I need to look at the label, see if the plant back restriction and if that would be appropriate place to use it, because there's like 5 gallons in there maybe. This is 2,4-D. We may use for some fall burn down applications, either corn stalks or wheat stubble. This is mostly additives. Well, this crop oil, we've got some volunteer corn stuff that's extra, a little bit of Enlist. There's not much that there. That's a 2,4-D that we can spray on top of soybeans. Telnor, that's weed herbicide. That's our insecticide we're going to use if the aphids get really bad. That shuttle is leftover boron. That's fertilizer. And then this one here, this is like super expensive, valuable pallet there. That's Liberty. Liberty is extremely hard to get your hands on this year. We pre-bought that stuff in January, thinking we might need it for mare's tail control. Used a little bit, but we haven't used it all. I probably could sell that for good money right now, because I don't think we're going to need it, but we might use some yet. That Liberty is what I'll probably add to the glyphosate where we're spraying double crop beans when we got that mare's tail issue. Where the windrows are that we haven't done yet. I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure that out when we get to it. Well, let's see if our tractor will start. Let's kick this onto the turbo mode and give her a shot. Beautiful. Okay, well, I haven't done much mowing this year, or really any, but let's go do a little bit. All right, so here's the wheat field we sprayed this morning, and this is what we're gonna hit just along this edge. Some of you may remember this from last year's jungle video. This is what we were mowing, some of those willow trees down there. We're not gonna do nearly as much this year, mostly because it's wet and I will get stuck if I try and go out there. Oh, there goes a pheasant. So we're just gonna make a pass along the edge and then one on the way back, and clean up around the edge a little bit so it looks better and keeps the weeds back away from the field, keeps the seed bank down a little bit, and makes it a little bit more of a defined edge when we come in to do our tillage and everything. Plus knock the trees and the brush down. Like, that's why I don't worry about mowing the whole thing every year. I don't mind the grasses, but we want to keep the broadleaf weeds and the woody stem brushy stuff down. I don't like that growing out here. This grass is thick. Working the tractor, I feel like our blades are probably a little dull, but we're beating it down, so that's all I wanted to do. A couple passes along the edge here. Well, the tractor's been running for at least a half hour, maybe 45 minutes. I think the battery's charged enough it'll start next time. We'll go find out. All right, I am about done for the day, but I saw the baling crew was overworking. Let's go check on them. Well, they were over here. They've got it, most of it, baled up and bundled, but I don't see anybody. Let's see if they're in the backfield here. This is the field where we're going to tile, obviously. And so this was kind of a priority to get this stuff baled up and off the field so that the tile guys can come in and start working. Oh, they got a little bit to bale over there yet, but not too bad. Oh, while we're here, look at this. So this is the field we frost seeded clover in. If you guys have been watching long enough, you remember that back in March. We spread some clover seed with the gator here, and there it is. It's growing. Looks really good. Looks like our spread pattern may have been just a little off. Well, there's clover out here. It's just not quite as thin. We got a real thick band right there in the middle, don't we? For whatever reason, it's a little streaky, but that's a good deal. So that'll be our cover crop for this field, and basically it will grow until the end of September. 1st of October we'll come in and spray it and then chisel everything under, and it'll make the ground really nice and mellow for next spring and next year's corn crop. I put the sprayer back in our gator. We've got a little bit of stuff I want to do with this. I'll show you some of it here in a minute, but Dad wants to take it to Berkey to spray the driveways down there. Okay, so this is our cornfield over here, or right behind the farm. The neighbor got his weed off, and I asked him if it would be all right if I come along this edge and spray all this foxtail that's growing here. So we're gonna spray some of that. I think I'm gonna run out of Roundup before we get it all, but we'll see. This may require a second application, but we're gonna get what we can and let it die, and we'll see what survives, because I can't get chemical on it right now. Just too thick. All right, I'm heading home. So thanks for watching today. We'll make a video tomorrow. Brock will be here. Plan is to get the sprayer going. That Century sprayer, so we'll have to hook that back up. Change some GPS equipment around. Since we have more monitors now, we can get one that will actually document and have our guidance line stored in it. We're probably going to spray the same stuff twice, once with Roundup and once with manganese. What else? Well, maybe we shouldn't do both on the same day. I don't know. We're going to get the Roundup done first because the ragweeds are getting out of control. And I don't know, we'll see what else is going on. So I'm sure there's plenty to do. There always is. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys tomorrow.